Hello, I'm back, and this is going to be my a very long games you should have played, where I'm kind of going to be talking about the massive collection of RPGs that were released on the N64, games that I feel should have been played. There were only 4 RPGs released for the N64. 4. And I'm going to talk about every single last one of them. But before I do, you will see in the background, right there, that's the Master Sword. I finally got my 500 coin Nintendo thing. Came in, so what'd he do? Woo, yeah. But it came. I'm going to put the other 2 down in my basement, because why the fuck not? So let's get this started with the first one. Quest 64. Quest 64 is a game that, well, how can I describe it? It was a RPG, only in the lightest sense of the terms. There were no levels. Instead of, in order for you to increase your abilities, you did stuff. So, in order for you to increase your physical abilities, like your speed, your agility, you ran around in circles. In order to increase your physical attack, you hit enemies with your staff. In order to increase your magic attack, you cast spells. In order to increase your health, you had to take damage. So the game was really bad. Like, there was no currency, so basically, in order to heal yourself, you either had to use your healing magic, which was the best way to go, but you had to use a lot of healing magic you had to have a very high level of healing magic in order for your healing magic to actually, in water magic, and in order for your healing magic to actually really heal you. So it was kind of a moot point at that point. So, Sprite, delicious. So, or sorry, my lemon lime drink, delicious. So basically, we're talking about, a game that, in terms of RPGs, was just very bare bones, very lackluster. I mean, you would be surprised at the publisher that made this game, at the studio that made this game. So, but anyway, Quest 64 was friggin' terrible. There was no currency, so you couldn't buy more healing items, or better items, or armor, or anything. It was just you, your staff, your magic, and that was it. A very bad game. Terrible. The only redeeming feature of Quest 64 was that the ending of it, the last boss had really cool music. Other than that, terrible game. Terrible. The graphics were pretty good, though. The monsters were interesting to look at. The story wasn't too bad, but the features, the gameplay mechanics were off, and that was the downfall of Quest 64. Well, now to move on to the next RPG that I'm going to cover, and ironically it's from the same studio and had a lot of the same mechanics, but they changed it up a little bit. Iden Chronicles: The First Mage. Now, this game was an old school RPG. You had levels, but those weren't really the important things. Basically, you gained skill points for defeating enemies, completing quests, defusing traps, opening, picking locks, opening treasure chests, that type of thing. And the game, actually, aside from the terrible graphics and the huge amount of glitches, was actually not a bad game. The downside of Iden Chronicles: The First Mage was it was severely unpolished. It was pretty much completed and pushed out of the door. But as far as RPGs go, it had an interesting story. The music was okay. The characters were interesting, and it had a twist that you really didn't see coming in the game. It was an RPG. Was it as bad as Quest 64? No, but it wasn't great either. Okay. Next, we're moving on to the next game that came out for the N64. RPG that came out for the N64. It was called Hybrid Heaven. Now, Hybrid Heaven was actually a pretty decent game. The hook behind Hybrid Heaven was very interesting. You see, Hybrid Heaven wasn't about like special. Hybrid Heaven was a game that was a sci-fi action RPG where basically you played a clone who was basically trying to defeat some aliens. Like the character you start out as playing as is actually the bad guy, and who you're actually the main character. Who the main character actually is a guy named is a special agent who basically is trying to not only stop aliens from impersonating the president, but save the good aliens who are trying to stop the bad aliens and everyone else, all while beating the hell out of various mutants, aliens, hybrids, everything. The battle system was very different. The game had like a live action portion where you could like crawl and shoot things and solve puzzles that way, and then the actual battle system where you use fighting moves in order to take on your enemies, and you could learn special attacks from defeated enemies, and you know, when they used them on you, you could learn them. It was a very interesting game. I played it, I beat it. It was one of the 4 RPGs that were out for the N64, so I had to get it because I was an RPG nut, because I had an SNES, which was the RPG system back in the day, and, you know, it was pretty good. I mean, it was, you know, was it great? Was it awe-inspiring? Did it, you know, will you write home to your mother about it? No, but, I mean, it gets the job done. Next, the last and best of the N64 RPGs. Ogre Battle 64. That's right. An actually good RPG. Now, Ogre Battle 64 is a strategy RPG. But, like RPGs, it has levels. Your characters become stronger as they gain levels. You make choices that determine how the game plays. It's a strategy. You don't control directly how your characters attack directly, like use a fierce attack, use a fire attack, use magic. Instead, how you position your characters in the command square, a 3x3 square where basically you put your characters where you want them to be, determines how, or no, not 3, it's 4x4. 4x4. A 4x4 square where you want your characters to be, no. Sorry, 5x5. It's a 5x5 square where you want your characters to be, or maybe, yeah, 5x5. Basically, the command square, like where you put them. So, if you put 2 magic users in the back and they have complementary elements like fire and wind, or water and earth, or water and wind, basically what happens is that they combine their magic attacks and do a combo magic attack, which hits a larger area of enemies. So, like, you could have, like, a wind dude with a water witch, with a water sorceress combine their magics, and then hit enemies with an electrical water blast that could paralyze certain enemies. So, I mean, you know, there was strategy involved with it, but you also had leveling up, an interesting story. and your choices mattered. Ogre Battle 64 was a great game. If you want to play this game, this is the only group of the N64 RPGs that is actually still, you can actually get your hands on still, without having to actually buy an N64 or the cartridge, or emulate, which you should never do. Never emulate. Unless, I will make a video to tell you when you can kind of emulate, and no one's gonna get mad at you about it. Ogre Battle 64 was a great game. It had great music. It had an awesome storyline. The graphics were great. It was a very deep game. It was a very, very deep game. I wish that Atlas would make another Quest 64. They could do it. They could do it. I would gladly play another Quest 64, because think about it. If it was on the Wii U, you could use the gamepad to put in like on-the-fly strategies to your units. I mean, because in the original game, you used the control stick to control the analog joystick to basically move a cursor around. So, like, it was like a point and click, but you know, it still was a very good game, and I got it, and it was truly a very good game. Now, to discuss why there were only 4 RPGs out on the N64. Basically, Scuttlebutt rumor says that the president of Square Enix decided to jump ship from Nintendo because they refused to go to discs, which is bullshit, because Final Fantasy VII was originally going to be a N64 game, so that, they knew that Nintendo was still using discs at the time. Personally, I think the reason Square Enix skipped over was because basically there were certain games that they didn't want to pay those Nintendo licensing fees, and basically they were tired of dancing to Nintendo's tune, because Hiroshi Yamauchi was... Ooh, he was the godfather, man. He'd make you an offer you couldn't refuse. Yeah, okay. He was Marlon Brando. He was Vito Corleone of the Nintendo, okay? Yeah, that's right. Nintendo is like the Corleones, okay? They are, they'll make you an offer you can't refuse, okay? Hiroshi Yamauchi is Don Corleone, and Iwata is Michael Corleone, okay? And everyone knows that Michael Corleone was very dangerous, even in some ways more dangerous than his father. But anyway, I don't know who Fredo is. Fredo is, I don't know who Fredo could be. Sonny is, Sonny Corleone is, Reggie. Sonny Corleone is Reggie. Reggie Fils-Aimé is Sully Corleone. And Tom, I don't know who Tom Hagen is. I don't know who Tom Hagen is. PlayStation is Sony is Tessio. Because they betrayed the Godfather. It was a setup. Yes, I'll explain that little bit of lore later. But basically, what I'm saying is that I believe the reason they didn't want to do it is because they were tired of dancing to Nintendo's tune, and they went to the PlayStation. Now the thing is like they made 3 pretty good RPGs on the PlayStation. After that, they made nothing but crappy RPGs on PS2 and the PS3 compared to what they made in the Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, and NES era. So what I'm saying is that Square Enix just, their games have gone downhill. And And because of their pulling out, they were the only game in town. Square, Soft, and Enix wasn't going to put anything on the N64 because Enix was always one flop away from going bankrupt. But when they made a game, people loved their games. Square Enix, Square just pulled support, so Nintendo had to do what it could to get some RPGs on the system, and these were the 4 that came. The first one was Quest 64, crappy, but you should play it to know your history, okay? The second one, better than the first one, but still not great. The third one, we were starting to get okay RPGs. The fourth one was an excellent RPG. Ogre Battle 64, excellent RPG. Get it if you can. It's a great game. Okay then, this is the end of this Games You Should Have Played special. 4-tacular. Quartet. So, rate, comment, share, subscribe. If you have any games that you feel that people should have played that you want me to talk about on my channel, put it in the comment section. And I will add a link to the last boss soundtrack for Quest 64 because I can't get my hands on the CD because they never made a CD because the game was never that popular. But people have ripped it and put it on YouTube, so yeah. Good day.